Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, Jackie Kashian here. You're listening to The Dork Forest. You know the websites, dorkforest.com, thedorkforest.com if you like a determiner. JackieKashian.com has everything. Both of my podcasts, all of the stand-up stuff, the new album, links to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the things. But so, I think, does dorkforest.com, where you can look at old videos of different shows. Anyway, if you want to support the show, tell people about the show, review it on iTunes, thumbs it up on Pandora or Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I appreciate that. You can donate. You can donate monthly. PayPal lets you do that. You can also do my Venmo if you like. It's at Jackie Kashian, absolutely everywhere. And my email address is jackie@jackiekashian.com, and that's what the PayPal is. The PayPal link is on jackiekashian.com and dorkforest.com. And go to any of them. Thanks for listening. There's merch. There's stand-up, there's tour guide, you can find out where I'm touring. This is getting long, so let's get into the show. Hey, it's me, Jackie Kashian, whispering into my microphone. A lot of air conditioning. You could hear it this time. You don't know. I'm in my garage. It's toasty warm here in Los Angeles. Feel free to pray for rain. My name is Jackie Kashian. You're listening to the Dork Forest. You're probably a ranger of the Dork Forest, which means that you're using your powers for good. And chaotic good. That's all I need from if you got to be chaotic, lawful good would be great, but chaotic good, I'll take it. In other news, I have a guest, and my guest is my friend, Carmen Morales. Welcome back to the program.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me back. Turns out I do like things.
Right? That's what we've been discussing for years.
Yeah.
I was like, all you have to do is like something. And you're like, I only like comedy. And I'm like, that's demonstrably not true. Demonstrably you like other things. So you I think we could have done, there's all kinds of weird things we could have done, and I wonder why we haven't. But now we're going to talk about vintage magazines and the art of collage, because you like to bring it. You like to put a thing together.
And specifically vintage magazines. Like I love an old Look magazine from 1956. I love a Better Homes and Gardens. Are these 1972. I love a.
Are those years
Time
that
magazine.
you like the vibe? Is that the year you like the vibe? Or is it a specific magazine? You're like, I need to find 3 more of these because I want that picture 4 times. Though, of course, we do have the technology.
This is where I get lost in the dorkdom part, is I don't care about anything that much, to be that specific. I like to go, because if you guys have listened to the last episode, the only thing I talked about was road comedy. Is like, this was like one of the things that kept me sane when I didn't live anywhere for a long time. So I would go to a city, i.e. Des Moines, Iowa, or Davenport, Iowa, if you want to get real specific, real small, right?
Drive.
Mm-hmm. And I would have nothing but hours and so much time to kill. So what I loved doing is I loved going to thrift stores, and more specifically antique stores. I love being the youngest bitch in a room full of old shit. Love it. So great. It's just me and 3 old biddies, and they're reminiscing about when they actually use these products, and I'm like, oh, that's a cute flower, right? And it doesn't have the same value to me. But one of the things I started doing is like when my best friend's Katie Hughes in comedy, who you know.
I know Katie Hughes.
We started comedy in Orlando together, and then she moved away, and it made me very sad. And one of the things that we used to do is we used to like write together, and we would do artsy stuff together and stuff like that. So
crafts.
You did crafts. Crafties. Little less Hobby Lobby, definitely more Blick, if you want to. It's definitely more artsy than craftsy.
Sure.
There was a vision there, and one of the things that we did to like keep in touch is we had a art book, is what it's called, where I bought a big thick notebook, and we would mail it back to each other, back and forth to each other. So for instance, like I would I'd write, just make these collages about, stuff that I was interested in, and this is kind of where this all started. This is the genesis of it. And so I would just collage with anything I found.
This is a movie about friendship. This is a friendship movie that's happening in the 21st century. That's Banana Land. That you're mailing back a book once, and a new page, and a new page.
Well, it would be several pages, because I would get in the zone. I would get in the zone. It would be several pages. But she was definitely she's way more of a writer than I am, so I was way more visual. But she would give me like writing prompts and stuff to do, and I'm like, great, homework, appreciate it, friend. And but the cool part is then it was fun to see where her head was at, artistically, and where her mind was at and stuff. And then it started becoming a thing where wherever I would go, I would look for stuff. I would look for some sort of ephemera, either some kind of flyer or some kind of thing, and then just try to make it into something, just to kind of show off for each other, right? But then it started getting more and more fine-tuned. We both got busy. The book got passed a little bit less and less, so I ended up with it. So I just started... she ended up with it. So I just started my own, because I was like, man, I really want to do that thing, but I don't have the book. So then I just started, I started going to, I was always at a Barnes & Noble. Oh, you could always find me in a magazine section, right?
Oh, right, because they have the biggest magazine rack in the whole wide world. Yeah.
They got options, Jackie. It's very nice. It's very nice to have options.
It is nice, yeah. So you're spending like $30, though, or are you just taking it, scissors, and just stealing it? What's happening? You're buying.
It depended on how good I did on merch that week.
She's lying.
Yeah, I'm not admitting to a crime on a podcast. It's a dull joke. So, it started off with me. I would cut up art magazines and make art out of art, so it was very meta and eye rolly at myself. But as the longer I did it, the more it became a thing that I really. It turned into a meditative almost to me. Then it started becoming very specific, the things that I liked, where I liked taking elements of modern things and then incorporating it with something super old. Because I love the golden age that they talk about, right? But I love the aesthetic of it. I don't love the mentality, if that makes sense. Ideals are trash, but oh my god, the ads are beautiful.
The ads are beautiful, and you're like, if you cut out the cigarette, these people are having the best picnic of their lives.
Or the cigarette adds to the humor of something that I will put into it, because now it's a baby smoking, and and then
Paul Malls, Gerber baby, together.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just making really that's the other thing too, is finding the humor in something fucked up in a visual way, right? So that would be the thing, as I would go to a city, and then to kill time I would go to either a vintage store or an antique store, because they're perfect comedian hours. They're open from 9 to 5, right? 5 p.m. I gotta go shit, shower, and shave and take a nap, get ready for the show.
Right.
So it's literally a perfect place for me to kill time. So I would, and it became one of the easier things to travel with was magazines, and then it just started I started traveling with the kit of all the things that I would make. So I'd be traveling with all of my glue and scissors and all this other stuff. So now
now you have a pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now I got my kit, and I got my art book, and now it's wherever I'm at, and then but when I started. When I was living on the road, one of the things that I did is I was like, oh man, I'm having so much fun. I bet other people would enjoy this too, as you often think, right? When you're enjoying something.
Yeah, you always do.
So what I did was I did a campaign where I was just making custom postcards. So anybody that hit me, I just put a thing out on social media. I was like, if anybody wants a one of a kind, never will be seen before, never seen again, I will just make you something and send it to you. Just message me. And I did, and I got it was probably 40 or 50. So I made a bunch of these collages on individual postcards, and then I would collage one side, the big side, right? And then I would do a little collage on the other side, because it's half for the postcard, right? And then you have the stamp and the address space. So I would do a completely different, two different concepts on either side or whatever, and so you would get a completely original piece of art to whoever I sent it to. And then I thought it was only going to be 10 or 15 people, and I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. But then once people started getting them, and then posting the things that they were getting, they were like, oh, that's cool, I want one.
Right.
And in hindsight, I probably should have scanned them, and it was definitely art for art's sake,
Yep.
because
Because who knows where they are now?
yeah, I'm gonna guess someone's trash can for sure. I definitely don't think people cared as much about them as I cared about making them.
Well,
but maybe.
Maybe some people. I know that I throw shit like that out, but other people have hearts.
Yes.
Though somebody did show up the other night at a Brian Regan show and brought me homemade Pop-Tarts because they have a pastry truck.
Oh, nice.
And desserts to die for up in Ventura County, you guys. Anyway, she had hand painted this box of fake Pop-Tarts, that homemade Pop-Tarts. And so I look at it, I'm like, well, I don't want to throw away this cool sheet, like just markers.
Yeah.
But it looks really cool. And it would kind of go in my kitchen. I don't know why my voice got squeaky, but it's actually, I kind of want to figure out what to do with it.
Right, yeah.
I'll tell you what I did do with it. I ate the Pop-Tarts.
Nice.
It's
flavor?
interesting.
Flavor? Can you tell me the flavor?
Yeah, one was coffee cake. That was not distinct. It had cinnamon, I could tell.
Uh-huh.
The other one was apricot, not my favorite, but was delicious. Here's what was amazing. I haven't eaten the strawberry one yet, saving it. But here's what is amazing with her homemade Pop-Tarts. An amazing pastry. Like super flaky and delicious. She literally, like a stick of butter, I don't know what she's doing, but well played. Desserts to die for, Ventura County. Anyway, but I don't know what to do with the art, but I don't want to toss it because it's actually quite
Cool.
quite pretty. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So that that was essentially what the goal was, is to make something cool enough that people would want to keep. But I also everybody's different when it comes to stuff like that. So
Right.
It just the funny part of it was that it just started like evolving into something that I sometimes would need to do, as opposed to a thing that I would just do whenever I was bored as shit and was like neglecting something I had to do, you know?
Right. Like you're like, I need to slow my brain down. So
Yeah. So look, tunes, like tiny amount of marijuana, and then my kit
microdosing,
setup,
you guys.
little microdosing.
If you go to microdose.com and put in the code
promo
Jackie
code Carmen
Laurie,
Morales. Oh, completely different podcast, different
completely
promo
different
code.
podcast. I don't even know if Jackie Laurie works enough, but it might. But if you go to microdose.com and try it, Jackie Laurie, you might get 24% off your first order.
Yeah.
Kilmartin loves them. She buys the gummy. She bites half of one. And she sleeps like a baby. Anyway, who knows how much the dose is, though. Anyway, so you essentially tiny bit of marijuana, some
Tiny bit
good
of marijuana,
music.
good tunes,
What,
and
what
then
defines good tunes? What do you like musically?
it would
when
depend
you're
on my
doing your
mood.
art. Okay.
That specifically, it would depend on my mood, but most likely jazz. Most likely jazz with no voice. Just a lot of tones.
lyrics.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's all riffing. It's all riffing, which my brain does anyways. But I'm not distracted by anything that anybody's got to say. So I just get to talk to me.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I love that.
We just get to talk it out, and because I mean, who would you rather argue with, anyways, right? At least we work it out at some point. But so it would be the whole thing. Is it would be if I had if I had to get up at 7:00 in the morning to do press or something like that, and then had I couldn't go back to sleep and had several hours before I needed to be or do anything or before anybody else was up. It was a great time killer, and a time killer where I didn't feel like I was wasting my time, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, because you are creating,
Yeah. It was creating, and it made me feel good. So it was both of those things where I was like, oh, I guess this is what ladies tell themselves when they go buy a bunch of shit and call it self-care, right? Retail therapy.
Oh my God. When I go to the mall and I get a mall massage, I'm sure someone with fancy bodywork cred is not, I don't know if that's actually helping or not helping. I'm like, oh, it helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Close enough.
Yeah.
That'll do. And so
Yeah.
it is.
Just
I'm
enough.
the self-involved.
Yeah.
You're the self-involved. So it is definitely your self-care.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then that's the whole thing. So it turned into, and so I did. I would start making these art books, and then I would go. And I would, when I was living in Chicago, I would just leave. I would forget to pack it or something like that, and then I would start another one while I was out. Or if I didn't have any of the things, I would buy the entire kit, which is just glue, scissors, like all of the markers, whatever the hell I felt like.
And then you have a sort of a spiral bound art paper level book? Is that what it is?
I don't usually use spiral because I don't like when you rip it out. It's usually like a proper book, like just like if you imagine
like a moleskin,
like a
kind of.
but hard cover, but all blank pages.
And how big? How big? We're talking 8.5 by 11.
It varies.
Okay.
It varies on how big my thoughts are. Right? Isn't that the whole thing? Big notebook, big thoughts. Small notebook, small thoughts. Sometimes I feel like making
oriented.
Yeah. Some of them are probably like 5 by 7, where they're just things I need to get out. Like those are like probably more of a personal journal where I'll collage in there, where it is just a conversation between me and myself. And then sometimes it's they're bigger. It's probably like a little bit bigger.
Vision board size?
No, way smaller, like 11, not 11, like bigger than a sheet of paper, but like a 12 by 10 or something.
Sure. Right. Not poster size, not 11 by 17.
Like if you go to Barnes & Noble and you go to the clearance section, they always got some sort of art book that's got no lined paper in it. That's $9. That size, whatever that size is.
Whatever that size is. You're not, okay. Fair enough.
I'm not measuring, but but usually it's easy to carry.
My dad does these art things, and he always uses whatever. He goes to Goodwill, and he buys whatever art they have at Goodwill, and then he paints over it.
See, I love that. I love that. He's essentially doing what I am doing, which is what's funny is like a lot of times at a lot of these like these antique stores and stuff, people are very precious about these old things, So like if it's a Time magazine that has like the JFK assassination or something like that, I'm probably not going to buy that because that's $25, right? They're wanting $25 for that, and I'm only going to destroy it,
Right.
And
so 2 reasons not to get it.
Right.
It's too expensive for what you need it for, and someone is going to want that because they want to remember JFK's assassination, like we're ever going to forget. Anyway, so that one, they keeps coming up.
I don't know. Gen Z doesn't seem to be talking about it, Jackie. So maybe it's good that it's preserved somewhere in Wyoming or wherever I saw it.
Right. So, okay, so you're flipping through. There's articles, which have photos. Articles.
Yes.
There's ads, which have photos.
Love them.
And
I love all the cartoons. That's the other part of it, is like old school ads where there was way more hand drawn things. There was way more cartoons. It was way more animated and way more like vibrant and stuff like that. Whereas now it's always just like, Dior, look at my navel, buy this watch. It's very specific, if you can even get a magazine, right? Because magazines are also being, so that's the other thing too, is it's like, it's using something from the past, and so I'm not consuming something new, but it genuinely is destroying the past at the same time. So there are people who love vintage ephemera that would be heartbroken to know that I am destroying all of the things that they are so longingly wanting to collect. But at the same time,
when you collect something, whatever they have is now worth more. Yeah. If they're collecting it financially, because you're destroying other things exactly like it, and so the exponentially the value of their thing.
If anything, I'm helping, really.
Right.
Your market price is going to go up.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to get in your face. It's about cutting up a magazine and just going, I'm going to do this. I don't know why, but I need to hold this mic now.
Do it.
Yeah, that's me.
Do it. There you go. But I have seen a few old ladies at antique stops their gobs drop whenever I'm like, oh yeah, I just cut them up, and they're like, no. And I'm like, well, look, I don't take the significant ones. I try to dig through the real thin issues where it's probably mostly ads, not a lot of articles. Maybe they had a skinny month. They had a skinny month at Look magazine in 1964 or whatever. And so then and it's usually all ads or just cutting out people's faces and stuff, like all of that stuff was just way more expressive. I mean, anyway, like there's a reason why everybody likes Mad Men. This is the golden age of advertising, right? So it's just, I loved all of that. And one of my favorite specific parts of all of those things are all of the old food ads, because they make the food looks so fucking disgusting. It's all that old, like, dull pineapple in a can, because this was also when everything started to get genetically modified, right? When they were like, holy shit, we're not growing this shit fast enough. Let's fucking figure something out. So there were like a lot of TV dinners with peas and a very ugly looking meatloaf with the same color gravy as the meatloaf. So you're like, is there gravy on it? But there's a line there, so that's got to be gravy, right? Or they would make those weird casseroles, a lot of casserole pictures, and stuff like that. Like I have a big like barn frame in my kitchen, and the collage is just all these weird kitchen specific like appliances and like food, like Caro syrup. Like remember when people just used to buy that, or like a lot of like old shit that they don't have anymore, you know?
Right. Nobody's using that anymore. But yes, I do remember that, and I remember. Yeah, I do like those old ads. They're very, they are very pretty, and they are. And so when you cut them up, do you try to tell a story on the thing, or is it just like, no, fun thing that I think is funny? Or do you quadrant it?
Over the years, it started making more sense. At first, it was just like, I like these things, I will put them together. And then it turned into, this would look funny with this on top of it. It became more of like a humor thing. Yeah. But now it's like way more thematic. Like it'll be like, I'll just... for instance, I'll have the theme will just be a color, like it'll be red, and I'll go through, 5 or 6 different magazines and just cut out every tiny little piece of red that I see and put it all together and then make something like that, like, make it monochromatic, or, or I'll cut out a lady and then she'll look terrified, but I'll have her surrounded by flowers and then give her a thought bubble, and then the thought bubble is whatever the psycho thing I'm thinking at the moment, it's a lot of projection. It's a lot of projection. But it's super duper fun. And like, I didn't realize how much I gave a shit about it. Like, cause that's the other thing too, is that's always why I don't think I'm a dork about anything, is cause I don't ever feel like I need that other than stand up. It's the only thing that's ever made me like, I need to do that. Which I guess means actually just less addictive personality and more, what is it?
When you just like the one thing?
Just like the one thing, yeah.
You just like the one thing?
Just the one thing.
I don't know.
Like, I don't need to do it, but I want to. But stand-up is like that. But then this became, like, it turned into a thing where I didn't realize that I liked it that much. Because once I stopped doing it for a while, and then I would just get bummed out. I would just get super duper bummed out, and I'd not know why. And I'm sure there's a myriad of reasons, but then it would be, like, I would just find something to cut up and start doing it. And I was like, I feel better. I think I just learned that I really, really, really like this.
Right. And it's so. Do you have to try to get more than one when you're sitting there with your glue stick and your scissors, or is it just one you're like, I bought this one, I'm gonna try to cannibalize. I'm gonna try to get as much out of this as possible. Or do you get a stack?
Definitely, I get a stack because that's the whole thing. Is I'll go while I'm on the road, especially if I'm moving around a lot and I don't have a lot of time to really set up shop.
You're moving around a lot.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, they're called one-nighters, you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when I was doing a lot of one-nighters, and so I would go to these places and like grab a magazine. Oh, this one's only like $4. It's not even that tore up. I'll take a couple of those, and this one's $10, but I really like the imagery on the inside. They had like some real fun like Woman's Day magazines that were in the 50s. That one was like, don't kill yourself, you'll get a husband one day. Like a lot of those. Some of those I would read the articles for just for the lunacy of it, and to see how far we've come, Jackie. Just to remind myself.
Right. And just go, it isn't as bad as it does seem, because it did used to be worse.
Yes.
So what about, do you ever just put something together and then just randomly mail it off to Katie?
I haven't in a while, but I absolutely have. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I absolutely have. The other one is like over the pandemic. At some point I did the postcard thing again. I started sending out postcards, individualized. A few of those I actually scanned, so I can show you some of those if you would like to see them.
I would like to see them. What I would like, because when usually I ask for a picture of yourself that you enjoy.
Okay.
And then we do an inset picture of whatever we're talking about. Let's do something nice for one of those.
Okay.
Oh, by the way,
good.
I never introduced except for your name.
Hi.
Carmen Morales, by the way, stand-up comic. You've heard her on the show before, but it's at The Funny Carmen.
That's me.
Carmen. You have a HBO
HBO special. It's called
Special?
Entre Nos on HBO Max. You can stream it right now.
Right
it's
now.
Entre Nos, Carmen, and Alfred. It's me and Alfred Robles. Got a little special and
little special, little bringing it. HBO
Yeah.
Max and watch that because it's all with the funny.
It is.
And then you are going to be in Colorado.
I am.
The early November, right?
November 4, 5, I will be at the Comedy Fort in Fort Collins, and then at the Beer Garden in Boulder on Sunday. And then the week after, I will be at the Laughing Tap in Milwaukee.
Wisconsin.
And the week after that, I will be in Montana. For some reason, I said yes to that.
I'm going
in
to
December,
Palmdale.
I'll be in Tampa. At the Side Splitters. I
Wow,
think that's
Side
about it.
Splitters still open.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Wow,
Good for
yeah.
them. Plug it along.
Now
So
the
go
second
see.
location.
Now with a second location. Please go see Carmen Morales do stand-up comedy. Now, how
Yes.
long do you usually sit and do this for? Like, can it be as little as 15 minutes?
Yeah, sometimes
Okay.
it is that. Especially recently, it's just been like a few minutes. Like especially once I have it turns into like a production because I gotta have my setup. I want to have
You
all
gotta
this.
have a space.
I gotta have a little trash can for all the little snippy snips I cut off. I gotta pull in a little trash can right there.
That's it.
I
You're
gotta
not a
have
monster.
Yeah, I gotta have all my different kinds of glue, right? Because it's not always just a glue stick, right? Sometimes I'm using like a Mod Podge if I want like a matte finish, or sometimes I'm using, I switch it up. And then sometimes I'm using like the those paint markers and stuff like that, and then and then I gotta have my stack, and I have and then I also on top of that now, because since I do I'll bring a stack in right after I've gone to all these places and collected magazines from all these places,
Right.
then I'll take them and then I just start cutting. I start going through them and just cutting out things I like. Just anything that I like. Anything that moves me. Oh, I love that dog's face. Oh,
Right.
this ad for coffee is hilarious. Oh, I look at the shape of this broccoli. That could actually be a tree, right?
Right.
Go through the whole thing. And I just start cutting out things I like. Cutting out letters I liked. Fonts.
Right.
Words and stuff. And then I have little like not containers, but like I have little
Yeah, you can little
like little
bins.
envelopes, yeah, little
Okay.
envelopes that keep like all the letters are in this one, and then these are all animals, and these are all. So I start organizing them a little bit, and then when I
Oh,
start,
that actually sounds kind of soothing.
yeah, it's putting things in their places. That also helps, right?
You're just like, I am part of the solution. I can fix something. All the letters are in this envelope. Yes, and
Yeah,
that's where
that's
they
nice.
belong. It is nice.
Yeah. Words or phrases like but that's the other thing too, is I've had to restart that multiple times. So I just recently got the last kit I had made because I moved and everything, so I finally have my setup now here, and I can now do that. And even just like cutting stuff, like even just getting parts ready for the putting it all together. A lot of times I'm looking for textures for the background and stuff like that, because I want it to look a little like whatever. So it's all the things, and so I just put them in kind of like categories. But a lot of times I'm just riffing. A lot of times I'm not doing that. I'm just going, ooh, I want this. Oh, I like this. And then I start looking for something to go with it. Then I start searching through it. And since I got a stack, I got plenty of real estate to go through, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm pulling through, I'm looking through stuff and figuring it out. Then I start putting it together, and then it becomes like the fine tuning stuff, like. I want this, like if I'm doing a silly, like I'm making it look like a title page or something, I would want this word to be bigger than this other word. So I'm looking for like a hierarchy, just using like genuine, like, art fundamentals, on how to put this together. Just, I guess the longer you do something, you have to try to get better at it, right? So it's just, it's like other things I think about to make it, look cooler to me, and then and then just starting to put it together and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'll just get tired or something, and then it ends, and then when I come back to it, it'll end up being something completely different because I'm going into it with a different brain than I was when I was sitting there,
Second draft kind of situation.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And what do you do, like, if you call them finished?
Sure.
What do you do? Do you have a bin? Like you're your own grandmother? Are you keeping them? What do you?
I have, I've never finished any of these art books. Know that this is also to appease my ADHD for sure. It's a thing that I can bounce around where I don't have to think linearly, but I can still complete something as well.
Right.
And me trying to be linear about it is me trying to put all the letters together and all the things. That's me trying to be like, okay, let's kind of organize some of this chaos. Otherwise, it's just like how I am on stage. It's just me riffing through all of these images and thoughts and trying to compile, just how we, just making trying to make magic, just trying to make magic.
But
yeah.
if you finish a book,
never finished a book.
So you still have blank pages in the back of every book.
Every single book I have has blank pages in the back.
Okay.
But I have 8 books that have
that have
all
room.
of this stuff in it. Yes. Which is also an indicator of I can't focus on one fucking book.
But and each book isn't its own theme. Obviously, every page can be whatever it can be, right?
No,
and whatever
each one, it's all its own thing. Yep, it's all its own thing.
But do you ever finish a page and think to yourself, you know who'd like this? My mom or that neighbor or
I did. I made back when I used to live at Maria's, they had a bulletin board, and and everybody would put their kids' art and stuff like that, and put their pictures of their pets and stuff. And so then I was like, oh, I'll make a postcard for the neighborhood and put it on the neighborhood, and it was this very ugly but funny looking baby that would looked like it was happy, but it was painted so bizarre. You know what I'm talking about? Weird, but somehow delightful. I cut her head out and made a bunch of flowers around it, and I was welcome to the neighborhood, and I found welcome to the neighborhood and collage that all together around it and put that in the thing. But yeah, there was also a point that was part of the postcard thing, whenever I just want to give it to someone, or a buddy of mine was having a real rough go over the pandemic, was getting real depressed, so I made him one on canvas, and I just sent it to him and sent him the collage that I made on canvas, and he was just like, oh my god, that's so
that's super sweet, just thoughtful. Just it's just a great, I have a friend that I exchange, she writes actual postcards, and I've kept several of them because I don't know where she got them, but they're usually when she goes to stores and there's sometimes a postcard rack, she'll buy postcards. And then I
also compulsively do that too. Same thing, magazines and vintage postcards, because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just collage on the one side where you would write everything, and instead of writing everything, I would just collage everything and say all the words in these tiny little letters and use tweezers and glue them all together, and like a psychopath, right?
A
ransom note. I would send ransom postcards, but they were so delightful though. Nothing threatening. Just may this
fun.
find you well. Yeah.
Just hilarious. The art on it is funny. That's the funny part.
But I love finding specific vintage postcards of places I was actually in. That was another phase in this evolution of what the art book thing has become, is there was a point in the middle where I was like, oh, I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. No one would ever want to go here, right? And I would find an antique store and I'd be like, do you have anything that's specific? Or even if I was adjacent, if I was somewhere in Maryland or something like that, and you dig through all of their old postcards, and they for some reason would have some small ass town that I was performing in, a Paducah, Kentucky or whatever, and I would buy a postcard, which was usually a very boring postcard one. It would be a hotel from the 1950s that's just look, it's got a pool. Isn't that cool? Remember when that was the big draw, Jackie? A pool?
That was the sale. It was the sale.
And so then I would buy those and either collage those, or a lot of times those I would draw on and stuff like that. Or do a combination of both things, and then just send those to either my mom or Katie or my sister. That was a big thing me and my sister used to do. Obviously before she passed away, we used to send postcards back and forth to each other, and I would always make the art ones, and she would always write, she would do it proper, be we went here and da 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 da, and we saw this and this was cool, wish you were here, etc. Right? But I would always either take either that, or I would take those little pieces of ephemera, those flyers or wherever from wherever I was at, cut those up and incorporate those in something that I was going to send on a postcard from wherever I was. So it's if I was in Madison, Wisconsin, and they had a really cool one of my favorites, specifically a vintage postcards styles, is the greetings from or the welcome to, right? The big signs, and then every letter is like, you know, in Florida it would be like there's oranges on the F, and then there's a beach on the L, and there's like all of these
little. It's a cutout, and inside there's a palm tree, or there's a flamingo or some damn thing on the inside of the block letters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was a very big time where it was very vintage postcard heavy. Before I started realizing, you know, with the I got way more real estate to work with if I'm working with the magazines, you know, way more options, more resources, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, then I started incorporating those in there. Like when if you know, a friend of mine lives in DC, and then I found this vintage postcard of the cherry blossoms. I would cut out the cherry blossoms and incorporate that some way, and like then make the cherry blossom like a woman's hair as well, and then make a face out of the, you know. So then it all becomes like a thing that would all get incorporated with. But
right. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I like the vintage postcard thing was a very big part of it as well, because I used to send those and just, you know, deconstruct those as well, which is also a thing. That's another funny one, as just as much as the magazines, is they would have, just because everybody used to send mail more, it was one of the only ways to communicate, unless you had big money and could make phone calls like that. You would there would be so many weird, like, the art is creepy,
right.
like,
and super
it would be like
specific. Like there's South Milwaukee, Wisconsin postcards.
Yeah.
That don't make like it's the post office.
Yeah,
like
it would be a picture. It would be a drawing of a post office, right. And then it would be like, this is the post office in South,
right,
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yeah.
When I was when you do the Laughing Tap, you might want to drive to South Milwaukee. There is a though I don't think there are any postcards, but the strip mining factory that everybody worked at. Not my family, but everybody else. My dad sold the tin pan, the tins to the gold miners. But there's a museum, just one floor, one big room of the history of the strip mining company, Bucyrus Erie, and you go around and they have so much crap that you're like, well, I know. And I got one from the mayor of South Milwaukee one time, and they sell them at the gift shop at the Bucyrus Erie Museum, which is an ornament with a picture of the lagoon in South Milwaukee. And the lagoon, when I was a child, back in the 12th century, there you could go ice skating, and there was a log cabin that sold really shitty powdered cocoa for like 75 cents.
Hell yeah.
And they didn't keep it up. Right?
Sure.
Right. So that was the 70s. And then in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, it's just a big mud patch now. And and they're like, say it the lagoon, like it's Back to the Future. And nobody has $1 billion to do that. But it would be nice to have a nice lagoon. Sure. And with an ice skating rink where people would go and it wasn't such a dirtbag, you know, kind of. I mean, because it's mostly a suburb now. It used to be its own little. It's still its own town, but it's mostly a suburb because it's bled off. You know, it's an hour 15 from Chicago. Yep. And it's 35 minutes from Milwaukee. So it's you can live there for $100,000. Yeah. And that's nice. And live like you can live like a king for $500,000. Yeah. In a vehicle, in a house rather. But but I'm gonna tell this story because it's on my phone. I have an app, you guys, an app, and it is
just one app. I feel like you should have more than one, Jackie.
You would think.
I would.
But I just got the one app, and it's called My Post, I believe. And it's you can make postcards out of photos on your phone.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have and you can get any kind of like they have different frames, right? Like happy birthday, and then it's a picture of you and the person you're sending. And so my friend who sent me the hand-picked, beautifully curated vintage postcards or weirdo ass postcards would then get back from me a picture of an iced coffee that I bought over at Disneyland. And that had at Disneyland in the Star Wars land, they sell an iced coffee that has a giant block of cream cheese on top and then Cocoa Puffs.
Oh, wow.
And it sounds disgusting. Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah,
it is ridiculously. I mean, and it's of course $6, but and it does look like you bought it on Tatooine. So it's a win all around, quite honestly. But she just sent me a postcard back. She sends me physical postcards that she has beautifully just signed and she's picked it. And I'm like, tappity tap tap. Remember when you hung upside down in college? And here's a picture of that. So
yeah, I feel like she's doing that. I think you're sending that to be nice, which is very very nice. I think she genuinely likes that she's doing that. Yeah.
It's a ladder. It's definitely a lateral sort of thing of the same kind.
Yeah.
But I like that she enjoys going to these places and cutting stuff up and actually finding a postcard that is weird and fun.
I have a bunch of I've gotten a bunch of like vintage postcards from Florida as well, just because I'm from there originally. So I like to see how it was drawn. It's almost like looking at old pictures of how people. How things were, and I think that's what the other reason why I kind of like these magazines and stuff like that is it is kind of like just thumbing through time capsules. Remember when time capsules were a thing?
Right.
Remember when people were worried about the year 2000, so they just buried a bunch of things they liked in the dirt,
assuming that aliens would dig it up and give a shit.
Yeah, or anyone. I don't even. It could have been other humans. I didn't think they just thought people were going to care about the. Ooh, wow, this was the Backstreet Boys? That's crazy. But I like being able to look at things like just like how well just also it was also like it's very telling of how things were socially, how people consumed then, like because that's the other thing too, is depending on what part of the country I was in is what kind of magazines I was getting, so a lot of times in like these more rural areas it would just be nothing but like hunting magazines or like farming magazines, so then I would get these weird chicken pictures, these chicken drawings.
Remember what a chicken ranch used to look like in Missouri?
Right before
the
famous chicken ranch, there was actual chicken ranches.
Right. I weed off again to tell you that my grandfather used to work across the street from a chicken ranch, and he would get on the bus, and I believe it was every Friday, he would go over to the chicken ranch, buy a chicken live, bring it on the bus with him back home to South Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on the bus, get off, and then Sunday morning they'd kill that chicken and cook it for Sunday. They'd have a nice roast chicken.
You know what that sounds like, Jackie? That sounds fresh, is what that sounds, which I appreciate.
It was a fresh chicken, one fresh chicken, and my grandmother, clearly willing, he had to kill it, but she was clearly willing to pluck that chicken and clean it up and make a chicken out of it. I have this to say. You got to kill it and pluck it. I want no part of the. I don't know if you've ever tried to pluck a chicken, but it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. It's almost like they want to keep their feathers.
Right. It's almost like those feathers are attached.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not ideal.
But I do love a place. Like you were talking about that place in South Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I love a place like that because when I was in Madison, I went to a mustard museum. They have a museum that it's all about the history. It's also one floor. Easy to sum up in an hour, right?
And the best gift shops, those ones sometimes.
Amazing. Yes. I bought the fanciest. I bought an award-winning mustard from a place like that. And they also had, again, like they had vintage ads and stuff like that for like old school French's and all the different, like old Coleman's mustard, all the different kinds. And so it was... it's always cool. So I'm always yes-anding all of those kinds of places that might seem kitschy or corny or whatever, because sometimes they end up accidentally being really cool. Right. Being a wonderful way to kill a day.
One of the greatest museums I went to, I think it was in Yeah, it was in Florence.
Mhm.
It was a mosaic museum, and it wasn't a museum of ancient mosaics. It was a museum of the tools they used to make mosaics. And so it was
Is a
old
tool
time.
museum?
It was a tool museum.
Come see the tools of all ages.
Right. So make a ceramic picture, paint, fire, 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 fire. Now you have that, and now cut it into pieces. So you've made a jigsaw puzzle, and then put it back together with grommet or grout, not grommet, grout. Don't. Yeah, it'd be weird. Yeah, and then grout it back together, and it was genuinely. Not that I didn't enjoy the Uffizi. I'm just saying that the David was great, but I really did like the weird mosaic museum. And also, I was in Chicago, and they had a weird museum as I was just wandering the streets of Chicago. It was a museum called, it was like a museum of writer. It was a writing museum. And so I went upstairs.
What
and I was
kind
like,
of writing?
what the hell does this mean? Typewriters.
Vague on purpose. Oh.
It was a typewriter museum.
Oh, okay.
It was styluses, pens, typewriters, computers, keyboards. It was a trip, man. I was on board.
Yeah.
Talk about a dork forest.
Seriously, well, the things like that you don't ever think you would be interested in until you go to that weird place. It was the same thing, like, again, over by where I used to live, there's the Bunny Museum. And what is it? It is exactly what you think. By Maria's house, there's a place called the Bunny Museum, and inside of it, there is nothing but fucking bunnies. Not live ones, stuffed ones, painted ones. There is a live bunny that lives...
Taxidermy?
They got taxidermy bunnies,
but
bunnies
they also
of
have
every
just
kind.
like plushies.
Huge, yep, huge metal ones, huge metal sculptures of bunnies. It's just every bunny kind, any bunny anywhere you could put a fucking bunny, they got it in this place, right?
Right.
They have a Bugs Bunny section. You know, they sell Peeps. They got
famous
Space Jam.
bunnies.
Yeah, they got famous bunnies too. They got all different kinds of bunnies. They got old bunnies from like the 50s and 60s, like just plush, like old plushies of bunnies, like all of them.
I did a dork forest many years ago to Dana Gould hooked me up with it because it's a guy he knows who has turned his garage here in Van Nuys, California, into a Planet of the Apes museum. It is not open to the public.
Yeah.
But guess what this guy owns? Everything.
Yeah.
He owns the lawgiver. He owns the statue of Roddy McDowell as that was put later as Cornelius. He has costumes. He has weapons. He has props. All the so many props.
Right.
He's got posters. He's got original posters and stuff. And it was fascinating. He also has a famous artist who wasn't famous at the time. He commissioned. He wanted a painting of Dr. Zaius at a dive bar. And so it
Classic.
is a weird dive bar of just a bunch of those, I think they were like silverback gorillas or whatever, who were sort of the thugs of the Planet of the Apes universe, sitting at a bar playing poker or something. And then Dr. Zaius over at the bar having a beverage. And it's a famous, I can't remember the name of the artist, which is maddening. But if you listen to this and want me to look it up, please tweet at me at Jackie Cation or Jackie at Jackie Cation me, and I will fucking find it.
If any of your listeners have any vintage magazines, I'm talking probably like anywhere from like 1912 to like 1975 is usually my cutoff. I'll take them.
Right, that you don't want, that you have dupes of or any of that. Do you ever go on the internet and then just look up old images and color print them?
No, never. It's always tangible.
You like the
media.
tactile? You like, okay.
I like the tactile. This is gonna sound weird, but I also like the old smell of them. Like they smell like they've been in a garage for a long time, or there's like a weird like ink smell to them.
You ever get that? Sometimes you get that ink on your hands with with newspapers
if it's
and stuff.
newspapers. Yeah. Usually, if it's a, I'm going for bigger kinds of magazines. So like They should have the money.
glossies.
Yeah,
The
they should
glossies.
have the money where even if it's not it shouldn't be coming off on your fingers. But definitely like some farm almanacs or something like that I've bought. It's definitely some transference of ink for sure.
You said boughten. I use boughten.
Boughten.
I want this to happen. I want you to make a thing, and then I want you to love it so much you've decided to shellac it. Or
okay.
What's the modern shellacking?
No,
You
I think
can-
I think you still shellac. Yeah.
You could also just what do you do with your driver's license? It's been
Oh,
laminated.
laminate?
Yeah, you could just get it
Well,
laminated.
they don't laminate them anymore, but I get it. You want it to be more permanent.
I got my COVID vax card laminated, and then I lost it. But it doesn't
Nice.
matter because it's in my Apple Wallet. Anyway, don't need it. Don't need a card copy, Jackie. Nobody's
well, that's
papers.
that's the other thing too. Is like I like still using that, like because there is something about using a dying media that is enjoyable to me. So then it's like it doesn't just go to waste. I get to make something fun that I enjoy with it.
Right.
But to go back to what we were talking about, like having a mustard museum or a bunny museum or that guy's house, that's like there isn't anything other than stand-up comedy that I like that much. So, which just is making me realize this. This is actually kind of like a breakthrough, I guess. But a thing that I realize is I am a collage. I like a little bit of a lot of things, and then that amalgamation together is me. It's I'm never full throttle on any one particular thing. There's things I absolutely adore. I love microdosing. I love macrodosing. I love mushrooms. Only the kinds that get me high, though. I don't like regular mushrooms.
You don't enjoy mushrooms?
I hate mushrooms.
Like on a steak? You don't like
No. Get him away from me. I only like him if you can have my mushrooms, Jackie, anytime.
Can I tell you
Anytime.
that Brian Regan, I just worked with him, and he has a new bit about how much he hates mushrooms.
I
And
love
he
it
becomes
already.
so angry and animated. It makes me so happy.
Yes.
And then he leads right into how he said, I'm not as angry about raisins. And I have to tell you, he's screaming about raisins by the end of it. And I'm
course.
just beside myself how happy I am about it.
It
Anyway,
is one of my favorite comedic pastimes is outrage over the benign. Chris Porter, it's one of my favorite like tropes in comedy is somebody who gets so mad over something that's so insignificant. Just because the juxtaposition of those two things, it's always very fun and silly. Like Chris Porter has a joke about ketchup. He's just like I guess a purist when it comes to ketchup. Like he doesn't like any other kind besides Heinz, the original in a classic in a glass bottle ketchup. You
wow.
know?
Does he
Hunt's
know?
is trash. All the other
Hunt's
the
is trash.
fancy ones, even the ones the cool
Organic?
ones you got to put a curry in it. He's like, get it. It's all fucking bullshit. I just
He's
want
not
to.
looking for an aioli. All right.
I love an aioli, but that's the thing. I like to mix everything together. That's my whole thing. I just realized this about me. There isn't anything I like all that I'm like a pure about. Even stand up, even this thing I'm the most precious about. Even then, I'm like all the kinds. So yeah, I like all the kinds. There's goods and bads.
It just has to be funny.
Yes.
It just has to be. It just has to be full.
It has to get the job done.
I have favorite kinds. I have favorite kinds of stand-up comedy, but there are many kinds of comedy that I enjoy that I wouldn't have thought that I would have enjoyed.
Yep.
And as I learn about those other kinds, I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, the art books. It's also started. The collaging part of it has started evolving into like stickers now. Like I've started doing that where I'll take a piece of furniture and I cover the piece of furniture with it. Like I have a desk chair that's nothing but stickers from all the different places that I've been.
Right.
So that's the other thing too. Like so, all of these places, like instead of buying like magnets or collecting spoons or thimbles or your classic tattoo joke, right? It's for me, it's stickers from a place and vintage postcards from a place, and then old magazines. The old magazines obviously aren't specific to a place, but either way, a lot of times regionally you'll get something fun
Something
and
different.
interesting. Yeah,
and a lot of those smaller places, you'd be like, I had a friend who used to go around the country and buy squeeze box accordions.
yeah.
And she was like, you can get an accordion for real cheap. Some of the greatest accordions in Wisconsin, rural Wisconsin, you take that accordion to Los Angeles, people are like, I'll give you 10 grand for that accordion. You're like, really? Somebody's grandmother was irritated that their husband had played it for 60 years and gave it to Goodwill.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What the unfortunate thing about that is with the internet, because there's a lot of that with the internet and everything being like, now people put everything online and stuff like that. Less and less of that is happening, which bums me out.
Yeah.
Because there before people, I watched the evolution of this, like buying magazines over time, is people started getting hip to like that people liked the ads specifically, so they would rip out all of the ads and then frame those and sell those.
Oh.
So instead of a $3 magazine, now they're making $70 out of the things in it because it's cool looking enough to put in a frame and put on your wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is.
So
Andy and
ultimately,
I bought,
at the end of the day, I could still probably sell a lot, because like for instance, but there's some of them that I'm pretty precious about. Like I have a Seagram's, or no, is it like a Seagram's 7 and 7-Up ad that has Johnny Carson on it with like a painted Saint Bernard sitting next to him. Like,
oh my gosh,
so adorable. It's an adorable ad, right? And it hits
so
all
weird.
of my buttons. I know,
Yeah.
so specific. But I will have it
enormously.
hanging over my bar cart whenever my bar cart gets here. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very it's perfect. But so there is plenty of those types of things that I've collected that I think over time people would be interested in having. But that's the other thing too, is like, keeping those things from fading and shit like that is just so difficult. That's the other reason why it's like, at least they live longer under this, all of this shellacking that I'm doing
Right.
with this glue and Mod Podge and whatever else. You can still get to see the image for longer. So
Right.
it's not getting eaten up by mites in a box in a garage.
Exactly. It's not just, and then it rains and they're ruined anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's been an hour.
It
Carmen.
has.
Yeah, it's been a delightful hour, and I have this to say. Carmen Morales is a great comic, and you should see her do the stand-up comedy with the Benedict live and in person. She's going to be in Colorado. She's going to be in Milwaukee. She's going to be in Tampa. Go probably to CarmenMorales.com. Is that where you have a tour
Carmen
page?
Morales. Yeah, it is. There is a page there with all the stuff and the dates.
It isn't
and all that.
thefunnycarmen.com?
No. It's. I mean, that also will go to CarmenMorales.com. I have both. They both go to the same thing.
Well, there
But
you
yeah,
go.
Carmen
And
Morales.
Yeah, and at the Funny Carmen, if you want to do a sort of a play-by-play kind of thing, because that's the Twitter and the Instagram and all the things. So
And the TikToks.
and the TikToks and all that. Thank you so much for doing the Dork Forest, Carmen Morales.
Thank you so much, Jackie Cation, for being patient enough with me to realize I do like things enough to do a second episode.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?